I'd have the room unmuted so we can mess off Doctor. Kelly, are we ready?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, Cumberland County. We are going to call to order the salary board meeting today, March 28th at 9:30 a.m. Could we please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Niederer,
Here.
Commissioner Fossey,
I'm here.
Commissioner Eichelberger, Controller Whitcomb.
Okay, so now we have the opportunity for public comment. Do we have any public comment in the room or online, please?
Doesn't look like it.
Doesn't look like it. All right, so our first action is to approve the minutes of March 14th, 2024. Do we have a motion, please?
I'll move for approval.
We have a motion for approval from Gary. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay.
Aye.
And
Jean, I'm lagging, so I'm going to turn off my camera.
okay, and I will slow down.
That's okay.
And do we have any other business to come before the board this morning? Oh, we didn't do the salary board actions. Thank you. Thank you. So we need a motion to approve the salary board actions, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the salary board actions.
9%.
Okay, a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Now, do we have any other business to come before the board? No? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you. So now we will move into our Board of Commissioners meeting, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, can we please have a roll call vote for the Board of Commissioners meeting?
Commissioner Niederer,
Here.
Commissioner Fossey,
I'm here.
Commissioner Eichelberger.
Present.
Okay, do we have any public comment on non-agenda items, please? Okay, so agenda item 4, it is with great pleasure as the Commissioner Liaison to the Cumberland County Library System to present this proclamation to Jeff Swope and Tiffany Wivel from Bossler Library. National Library Week is April 7th to April 13th, so we have a proclamation for you. And if you want to come on up, I'll read it and hand it out.
Nothing is out of the way.
I was trying to do the best when I come here.
Those are animal friendly.
They are
Okay.
faux.
So, Cumberland County Commissioners recognize National Library Week. Ready, set, library. Whereas the libraries of Cumberland County Library System offer the opportunity for everyone to connect with others, learn new skills, and pursue their passions, no matter where they are on life's journey. And whereas they have long served as trusted institutions, often the heart of their cities, towns, and schools and academic campuses. And whereas libraries are an essential public good and fundamental institutions in democratic societies, working to improve society, protect the right to education and literacy, and promote the free exchange of information and ideas for all. And whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of communities, developing and expanding collections, programs, and services that are as diverse as the populations they serve. And whereas the libraries are accessible and inclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing civic engagement and shared community goals. And whereas the libraries of the Cumberland County Library System play a pivotal role in economic development by providing resources and support for job seekers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses, thus contributing to local prosperity and growth in the county. And now, therefore, the Cumberland County Commissioners proclaim April 7th to the 13th National Library Week, We encourage all residents to visit their library and celebrate the adventures and opportunities they unlock for us every day. I'm so pleased that you're both here. And as a little girl, I spent so much time in the children's library in Du Bois in Clearfield County. And even now, when I really need to go focus, I go to the library, right, to sit down and read. So thank you so much. And I'm kind of tickled pink that you're here this
Thank you
morning.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate your support and collaboration. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, hang on.
We got photos. Sorry.
Don't miss the opportunity.
All right, can I get everyone to take a step
Step that way.
That way.
Oh, half step.
Yeah,
I went
Sorry.
too far.
Yep.
Wasn't there a- wasn't there a rule that- where that was?
All right, that's good right there. I'm gonna take a couple, all right? All right, we're good, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you so much. Wrestle the chair. Okay.
It's the boundary with the carpet. It's
Yeah.
Trying to get the chairs of that.
Just like to provide challenging opportunities whenever we can.
Whenever we can. So now we will move on to the part of our agenda that is the consent agenda. And so, I'm tossing it to Stacy. Go, Stacy.
Yeah. The consent agenda contains routine items that do not appear to be controversial in nature and also do not appear to require any additional discussion. If any of these agenda items, if there is anyone that would request discussion, we will move those out of the consent agenda. Hearing none and seeing none, commissioners, I would ask for approval of the consent agenda, which is agenda items 5 through 12.
Do we have a motion on the consent agenda, please?
I will move to approve the consent agenda, motions 5 through 12. Items 5 through 12.
Do we have a second?
I will say.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, Stacy.
All right, so that then takes us to the regular agenda, and these are non-routine items that will be discussed as they appear on the agenda. And we'll actually start with agenda item 13. And actually both agenda items 13 and 14 are for the Borough of Carlisle. And I'll actually start by calling on Mayor Schultz, who's joined us on sort of surround sound on our TVs here on Zoom. Good morning. We'll start with agenda item 13.
Good morning, and I'm horrified seeing my big face in your room there off to the side. But thanks for having us today. I had a late night in Silver Spring. It was about 12:45 a.m. So I'll try to keep this brief for you, and I'll touch on both agenda items 13 and 14. There are letters of support for federal dollars that we're seeking. The first is for our biosolids management improvements project. And because many of you, I'm sure, had breakfast not too long ago, I won't go into too much detail, but you'll understand that that's the sludge that comes out of the wastewater treatment plant. And our current practice had been to spread that after treatment on farm fields through several farms in the county and the region. What we have sought to do is back in November 2023, council and through the borough's engineering firm, Gannett Fleming, presented a detailed alternative to our current program. The alternative was necessary to bring it up to the best practices of today. The biosolids management program that we're looking to do is more affordable, cost-effective, energy efficient, environmentally sound, and more sustainable for the next 25 years. The alternative costs range from $20.4 million to $25.6 million. So you can imagine why we might be seeking some funds to assist with this project. And both this and the next letter of support that I'll touch on are not just for the Borough of Carlisle, but it affects ratepayers throughout the Carlisle region, throughout multiple municipalities in Cumberland County. And I'll pass this on to, I believe, Mark Malarich, our borough engineer, is in there for details, should you have any questions about the details of the project. The second is for our borough's water treatment facility upgrades that we will be undertaking to address PFAS in our potable water system. Also, you're all aware PFAS as a carcinogen that is unfortunately, found throughout this world anymore because of its proliferation over the decades. We are trying to take a proactive stance to move this forward. Again, Gannett Fleming was hired to identify that our ion exchange resin filter columns is the most cost-effective solution. The initial costs and the 20-year present worth costs are very significant, estimated to be between $8.7 million and $12.9 million. So again, a large capital project that affects ratepayers throughout the Carlisle region. And with that, if you have any questions, we very much hope to have your support. We have support from a number of elected officials throughout the region, and hope to add the county to that support. But if you have any questions about the details of the programs, I'll pass that off to Mark Malarich.
Any questions? I'd be happy to talk at length.
I'm afraid we wasted your time today.
Commissioner Nieder, any questions?
No, none from me, thank you.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and take motions on this separately. Let's start with item 13, please. Do we have a motion?
I'll move for the letter of support as outlined in item 13.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And do we have a motion for item 14, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of support for Carlisle Borough as outlined in item number 14.
A second?
I will second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion unanimously passes. Thank you so much. It's good to have you
We
here.
appreciate your support. And before I take off here, I'll note that on your next agenda item, I'll be signing a very similar letter. We're very excited about that project moving forward. So we completely support that also at Frog Switch. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good to see you this morning.
Sean, before you go,
Oh, yeah, yes, Commissioner Eichelberger, sure.
regarding Frog Switch, I just have a question there. Are there deed restrictions or are there perhaps indications by the borough on whether that property you wish for that to remain in taxable status, or any guidance on that, any direction on that?
I'm not aware of deed restrictions. I'm not sure I got the full question. Or did you say, are we hoping that to remain in taxable status?
I wanted to remain on the tax rolls, so I didn't know if you wanted to express a preference in any way on that, or if your conversation with Katie has addressed that. Or...
Oh, well, and I think in the long run, and we've been working closely with CADIC and REC. So I think in the long run, we have had some excellent discussions where that would eventually be, our hope, of course, is that it would remain on the tax rolls. We're a relatively built out borough, so expanding the tax base is pretty crucial in the borough.
And Commissioner Eichelberger, I can speak to that when we get into the.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
Okay. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Have a good morning.
Okay. And then just before we move on to agenda item 15, as much as we are enjoying your presence here, you do not need to stay. Lovely, lovely. So agenda item 15, as Mayor Schultz noted, is regarding a letter of support for the Frog and Switch manufacturing site development. And we have John Cox here in the room to discuss. Good morning.
And we have Andrew Noto-Francesco, who has joined us remotely. So Andrew is, chair of the Rec Management Group, and I'm the treasurer, one of the 5 members of the Rec Management Group and the CADIC board chair. So Andrew, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, so I'll just make a few preliminary comments and then turn it over to you to supplement as necessary.
Thank you, John.
So commissioners, very much appreciate your considering this item, our request for a letter of support in connection with a business in our sites application to DCED and the Commonwealth Financing Authority. We actually have submitted the application. It was due tomorrow, but we wanted to get it in this week in advance of the deadline, and we've done that. So we think we have a very strong application. We're very excited about the project. In round numbers, what we applied for was approximately $5 million, under $5 million. And we're seeking 60%, the max 60% loan and 40% grant, max 40% grant, I guess you could say, in the application. So roughly $3 million loan, $2 million grant, which we believe in terms of the loan amount is fully supported by an appraisal that we obtained for the property, both as is value and a value based on the site being cleaned up and positioned for redevelopment. So we're very comfortable with the long-term viability from a redevelopment perspective for the real estate collaborative in Koenig. We have a signed letter of intent. We've been working on negotiating a final purchase agreement for the property with the current owners. That's been going very well. We hope to close on that in the next month or so. We'll have we have up to a 9-month due diligence period that we can extend for another 3 months, although we don't think we'll need to do that, based on very favorable commitment from the EPA to bring their brownfield assessment team in to do a phase 1 and phase 2 of the property, which they believe, and we believe that they will be able to start kind of mid-year this year. So we weren't totally sure about that, but we do think we'll be able to move, now that they've made that commitment to us, we believe we'll be able to move through the due diligence period relatively quickly and hope to be able to actually close on the property with the current owners before year end. Our goal then would be to put out an RFP to invite proposals to partner with or ultimately sell the property to a master developer. So we want to see what, we have ideas about the property, of course. The borough has, we've been discussing and working with the borough and their planning department. They recently rezoned it to urban mixed use. So it really opens up how we'll be able to, to create the maximum flexibility for redevelopment. So that's kind of the near and intermediate term plan. Andrew, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes, John, thank you. I'd like to add to that we also applied for a statewide LSA grant, and we're waiting to get feedback on the statewide LSA grant. And just to reinforce what John said, we've had some great experience at taking down sites like this and getting them repositioned for redevelopment for the betterment of the community. And we're very excited about this opportunity. And the current landowner, Frog Switch, has been a valued partner in this process in helping us to get to this point, and will be of great assistance to help us bring this to completion. Thank you.
So the cost, the grant and loan proceeds we're going to use for environmental mitigation, remediation, and evaluating the buildings and taking down, demoing the buildings that we don't think have structural integrity or have asbestos or other environmental issues. We don't know the full extent of that at this point, but and then so taking it through phase 2 and addressing any environmental issues that we need if we need to go through Act 2. So those are all the, anticipated costs and expenses to be funded with this loan and grant.
Any questions, commissioners?
I do have a question.
Oh, sorry, I wanted to.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, why don't you go first and then I can.
Yeah, so part of the budget under the grant application is to help us with the carry costs. So we want to and expect that this property will be maintained on the tax rolls, throughout our repositioning of it. They're paying roughly $50,000 per year taxes, ballpark. Is there an opportunity for us to talk with the taxing bodies about whether the current assessed value is appropriate, especially during the redevelopment period? Possibly, that we're certainly not going to, that will be an amicable discussion to see whether, the current assessed value needs to be revisited. But at this point, we're not assuming that, and we're hoping to obtain funds in our loan and grant application to help us with carry costs while we own the property, because we are the status of the real estate collaborative as a wholly owned subsidiary of KDIC, which is a nonprofit corporation, probably not a purely public charity. We would not seek to obtain a full exemption. But does that answer?
Yeah, I know it's very early in the process, but I know there will also have to be essentially conceptual, visioning of what you're going to do with this. So that leads to what you're talking about, takes me one step further. Are there any discussions or plans of seeking LERTA or other tax abatement for the redevelopment?
Not at this point. I think we'll have better insight into that, Commissioner, when we receive responses from our requests for qualifications or requests for proposals from the master developer about potential reuses of this property. It's 27 acres. It's a very large property. About a third of it is occupied by the main industrial buildings. A third of it's kind of surface parking area. There's some green space, open space on the northeast side along the railroad tracks, and then there's a old landfill of that has been capped and it's gone through an enclosure process that will probably remain closed and undeveloped, be used as open space.
Does that have to be reevaluated?
No, we're not working with Frog Switch right now. Close that. All the testing, it's been monitored for decades, and Jill, actually, Gato, has been instrumental in helping us working with the current owner and TP and their engineers to wrap that closure process up. So that portion is, I think, roughly 8 or 9 acres that will remain as open space. So it's a great project. We'll have to see what the ultimate uses are for the portion of the property, viable uses are, or uses are for the portion of the property where we expect there to be active redevelopment. And, based on current construction costs, whether there would be any additional tax increment financing or LERTA or other, tax credits, investors, or other economic development tools that will need to be brought to bear to ultimately make whoever buys it, the site from us, to make it economically viable.
Okay, I have one last question, and it's for Andrew. Andrew, you still there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Good to talk to you. Long time no see. Thanks for being here today. The question I have, since you were involved in the other projects, is not necessarily, this is a little different. Okay, in a project like this, technical and engineering steps are very well defined. We work our way down the decision tree. The one part that's kind of more squishy that we ran into, for instance, with the Lemoyne Middle School, was the community engagement aspect. And, the commissioners heard back from that. There may have been, some more desirable approaches that might have saved some angst and got us to a decision, a resolution faster. So the only question I would have is, and I'm not really expecting a full answer today, is there a plan perhaps for community engagement, or is there an evaluation of lessons learned from that experience?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Commissioner. Thank you for that. So yes, the rec committee has had discussions, and as you heard from Mayor Schultz, we've already approached the borough in some of these activities. The borough has done some original outreach and visioning based on their input. They actually proactively rezoned the site in 2023 in December and changed it from an industrial use to an urban mixed development use. So they've been a party to the activities of what we go through. And as soon as we sign our final purchase and sale agreements, we've agreed to work with the borough on a frequent basis through meetings and listening sessions of the local community. This is a large site, Commissioner, and there's going to be a lot of input and a lot of thought that goes into it. And we're not looking at it myopically. And I think the lesson learned comment is valuable. We learned a lot of lessons on each one of the projects that we've undertaken. And I think on each one we've gotten better. And we're hoping to continue to improve on this project as well.
There is a small slice of property that's in North Middleton, but most of the property is in the borough. And we've been working with the borough, meeting with the borough, had several meetings with the borough, and we'll continue to do that, especially once we get data back from the Brownfield assessment team, because we'll have a much better idea of what we can do with the property after that work is done. So I would anticipate that collaboration continuing.
Thank you both for the answers. Very helpful.
Any other questions, Commissioner?
I just have a comment. I really like this project. This is great. This letter needs to be changed from the singular I to we as we move it forward. That's my only comment. Okay, so Kelly, any questions?
No, I love the project, and I will make a motion to approve the letter of support for the Frog Switch manufacturing site redevelopment business in our sites application.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Aye.
carries. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day and happy Easter.
Thanks, Andrew.
Okay, so that takes us then to the next section of the agenda with our contracts and grants, and I'll turn the meeting over to Angela Slicer.
Thank you, Stacey. Good morning, everybody. Moving on to agenda item 16, I will call on Christine Bowden to discuss the contract addendums for aging community services. Good morning, Christine.
Good morning. I am here to discuss and ask for approval for contracts for the Big Spring, East Pennsboro, and Meadow Haven Senior Centers. The state has allotted an additional $2,551 for each of them in our block grant for capital improvements that they may have.
Any questions for Christine?
I don't have any. Do we have a motion, please?
The only question, Christine, I would have, this is Kelly, the form says that it's not a part of a grant, but it is in fact a grant?
The funding states that it's a part of the aging block grant.
Okay, because it was on the application, it just says grant, no was checked, but I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
No problem.
Anything else? Okay, do we have a motion, please?
I'll move for approval.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 17, I will call on Jamie Reiber to discuss the contracts for children and youth services. Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning. The first contract is for Capella University. It's an affiliation agreement. One of our staff is going to be completing their master's degree, and this is to allow for site-based learning and the cooperation between our agency and Capella University for her to do that. There is no money attached to this contract. The second one is with Dauphin County Children and Youth Services. This was a capital request that was approved at last meeting. It is for the purchase of 4 VR headsets and then the virtual reality training program. We are going in with Dauphin County and York County in order to save money. They were going to charge each of us a very high amount, but allowed us to go into it together so that we could split the cost. The training is going to be prorated amongst the 3 counties, and then we're purchasing our own VR headsets. The VR headsets are being purchased through Family First funding, and then the subscription for the training will be at $10,400 per year out of the general fund, and the rest of it will come out of grants. The third is Marco Technologies LLC. This is for another capital request that was approved at last meeting for the purchase of 4 copiers, the lease of 4 copiers, copier printer scanners that are going to be replacing 3 printers and 2 copiers that are at the end of their life and no longer cost effective to fix. IMTO did do an analysis on this. It'll be $945.73 per month for 60 months. And it's going to be a total of $2,270 out of the general fund, and the remaining of that per year, and the remaining of that will come out of other grants and state funding. The last one is Marikey Behavioral Health. It's a letter of agreement. This is just to allow us to collaborate with them when we have same individuals that are involved in both their psychiatric and counseling services and our office in order to be able to share information and ensure continuity of care between them. Any questions on any of those?
Questions? Kelly, any questions?
No,
Okay, so we have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the contracts for children and youth as presented by Jamie Reiber.
We have a second?
I will say.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion moves forward unanimously.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 18, I will call on Mark Adams to discuss the grant program application for IMTO. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, commissioners. This is year 2 of the state and local cybersecurity grant program through PEMA. It's actually federal funding. They provide the funding to the states, and the states come up with a plan to share those dollars with state and local offices throughout the state, education included with that. What they do though is they don't give us money for it. They actually provide it like shared services. So last year we had the phishing program paid for through the grant project. We had an Albert sensor, which is an intrusion detection system that was paid for through the grant. This year they're still funding those 2 programs, and they're also adding 2 more to the program. So the other 2 are vulnerability management solutions and essentially a log server. It's called a SIM. It's a security information and event. So it captures logs from all of our servers and services, brings it into one central repository, and then we can use it for data analysis and see if there's anomalies or people are attacking our systems and all that stuff. We do have some of these solutions in place today, so we may not be able to get all of the services, but they're part of the package and we're able to. So there's still more to come on what we can actually achieve, but we may not be getting everything that's on the list. So, but today I'm asking for approval to move forward with the grant application, and more to come on that. And again, we're still getting questions answered through the state to find what we're able to apply for.
Any questions for Mark?
Any?
I'll share. The state is picking up 20% match, so that's the federal government will pay 80% of it, and then the state is picking up the for 20%.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move for the approval of the state and local cybersecurity grant program.
I'll
Do we have a
second.
second? Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And motion moves forward unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Moving on to agenda item 19, I will call on Elizabeth Grant to discuss the contract and grant for planning. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning. Thank you. So the first item that we have is an addendum to the contract with HRG. And this is for supplement 4, which supports their work in coordination of the countywide action plan for clean water. There is $90,000 for the 2024 distribution of funds, and then there is $9,500, which is rollover funds from the previous grant year of 2023. And this contract is supported entirely by a grant from Department of Environmental Protection, and it supports identification of projects for best management practices and also technical support.
Elizabeth, you can discuss the U.S. Department of Energy.
Okay, they were two separate items, that's why I wasn't sure if I should discuss them together. Thank you. So the second item would be the U.S. Department of Energy for acceptance of $274,270 in voucher program for energy efficiency and conservation block grant. And this is to support the purchase and installation of charging stations and purchase of electric vehicles. And this was a previously approved grant. This is just the acceptance of the terms and conditions and reporting requirements pertaining to that grant.
Any questions for Elizabeth on those two items?
Actually, I do. As I wasn't part of the original approval, Elizabeth, have any terms or conditions changed?
So the terms and conditions from the Department of Energy are related to NEPA requirements and just reporting requirements for that voucher. They have been reviewed by the solicitor's office, and to my knowledge, no, there haven't been any changes.
Okay, thank you.
Do these need to be handled separately?
It's up to you. If you do one motion, that would be sufficient as well, unless there's a disagreement as to what's going to be approved or not.
I'll allow others to take the lead.
So do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the contracts and grant for planning with HRG and the U.S. Department of Energy as presented.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
Moved and second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. And I think Angela's going to call on you again.
Yes, Elizabeth will also be discussing agenda item 20. And there was a typo on the agenda. The amount is $10,000, not $75,000. And with that, Elizabeth, I will pass it over to you.
Yes, thank you. So this item is pertaining to the Cumberland Plans grant application by the Redevelopment Authority to support completion of their consolidated housing plan and affirmative fair housing study for 2025 to 2029. The grant request to Cumberland Plans, as stated, is for $10,000. The total project cost is $75,000. This item was discussed at our Planning Commission meeting, and it was recommended by the Planning Commission to award the grant to the Redevelopment Authority. And this will provide housing trends data that will be useful for completion of our comprehensive plan.
Any questions for Elizabeth on that item?
I don't have any. Kelly, any questions?
Nope, none for me, thank you.
Okay, we're looking for a motion then, please.
I will make a motion to approve the award recommendation by the Planning Department of $10,000 to the Redevelopment Authority of Cumberland County for the plan grant developed under the Cumberland Plans grant application.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Moving on to agenda item 21, I will call on Claudia Garner to discuss the contracts and grants for public safety. Good morning, Claudia.
Good morning, everybody. We have 5 items on the agenda today. We're asking for your approval. The first is the renewal of the 1-year agreement with Eaton Corporation for the service and preventative maintenance of our uninterrupted power supply, UPS, and the flywheels. This is an increase of $3,736 from the current agreement, and that is simply due to inflation as well, but the previous agreement was for 3 years, and we paid all of that up front. This is a 1-year agreement because the replacement of the flywheels is in process with our department and facilities. So therefore, we only engaged in a 1-year agreement. The contract does include a 30% discount on spare parts, field upgrades, and time and material services. So again, this is 1 year with Eaton Corporation in the amount of $17,503. The second item we're asking for your approval is the acceptance of the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant, known as the BRIC grant. This is federal funding from DHS, in which Cumberland County has been awarded $63,966.41 in federal funds and requires a 25% in-kind match. The grant will support the contractor who is working with the county planning department to update the county's hazard mitigation plan. It has a performance period of November 30, 2023 through November 29 of 2026. The next item on the agenda is we're asking for your approval of a land lease agreement with Newville Borough Water and Sewer Authority for the use of the land located in Penn Township for the tower site planned as part of our P25 Public Safety Radio Tower Site Infrastructure and Network. The agreement is for 25 years with a cost of $12 per year. And the next item we're asking for your approval is permission to apply for the Emergency Management Performance Grant fiscal year 24 with a performance period of October 1, 23 through September 30 of 24. The amount of the award is determined once the application period closes on April 18th, and the funding available at the state is divided among the counties who have submitted applications. The eligible expenses for this grant are up to 50% of the salaries and benefits for 2 of our positions here at Public Safety. Just for reference, last year's grant award was $97,899. And the last item we're asking for your approval is the amendment to our existing agreement with Shenandoah Mobile LLC. That is for the Boiling Springs Tower Site co-location agreement that we signed just a bit ago. This amendment will change our commencement date from March 1st to June 1st of 2024. And there was a slight increase in the monthly fee from $1,500 per month to $1,700 per month. And that's due to the additional space that we need for the propane tank. And it also removed the one-time connection fee and recurring fees due to South Middleton Township, as those were waived for the county. So with those fees being waived and the increase in the monthly rent, there was a net decrease in the first year expenses. So if there's no questions, I'll ask for your approval of those 5 items.
Any questions for Claudia?
Okay, hearing no questions, do we have a motion, please?
I will, for the approval of the 5 items, since we can do these together in total, as outlined and as outlined by Claude, and appears on the agenda.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion moves forward unanimously. Thank you, Claudia, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Moving on to agenda item 22, I will call on John Bittner to discuss the contract for vector control, weight and measures. Good morning, John.
Good morning, everybody. This is a software agreement for a company called My Government Online, also known as MGO. It is for 2 years, $12,820 for the 2-year agreement, which ends up being, we pay monthly $530. This is a suite of management modules, which increases efficiency and maximizes staff time for weights and measures. the program itself expedites staff reporting and makes access by management, vendors, associated agencies, the public, or whoever you designate very simple to do, and it is a relatively good product at a great price.
Any questions for John?
Okay.
John, I don't know if you're sure. There you go. Bears.
Thanks.
Okay, we said we don't seem to have any questions, so do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the My Government Online contract for vector control as presented.
Second?
I will second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And motion moves forward unanimously. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. And may I add that, if everything works out the way it should, this would be maybe a good starter for some other departments to use once we trial this out and see how it goes with just weights and measures.
For the record, John's office worked very well with IMTO, and we've been engaged with this project for a little bit of time with Kirk's support. So pretty exciting opportunities with the technology in place.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I'll turn the meeting back over to Stacy.
Thank you, Angela. That takes us to agenda item 23, which is Commissioner's Liaison Reports, and Commissioner Niederer, you.
Okay, I'll try and keep it brief. I attended both the new board member orientation for both CREDIC and CADIC, followed by a CREDIC mixer that was hosted by Orrstown Bank. I attended the Cumberland County Planning Outreach meeting, and I'm not sure, there were so many people on the call. I'm not sure if my colleagues were on or not. It had very good participation, and it included representatives from DCED to talk about their STAMP program, which is the Strategic Management Planning Program. I think they're trying to reposition that as it had been used previously for in distress, and trying to encourage municipalities to work with them prior to reaching that stage. And I also wanted to just thank Kirk and his team for the positive way that they go about maintaining these important relationships with our municipal partners. I was pleased to help celebrate the birthday of a 100-year-old gentleman in our county, Mr. Boyer. He was delightful, and we can all hope that we are equally as good in our 90s as he is at 100. And I held a preliminary call with a representative from the state treasurer's office who would like to come in and present, and he will be doing that in April. Commissioner Fashi and I attended a tour of the Gift of Smiles facility. It was a project for which this board had previously issued a letter of support. And Commissioner Fashi and I would like to say thank you to the row officers for hosting the potluck treats for the county staff. I know it was enjoyed by everyone. The Ag Board for March was canceled, but there was a planning meeting, and as was indicated, there was some very spirited discussion on several items, and it was really good to see the engagement around that. Both items, the first was a support for rezoning, and the grant requests that we have just approved for the redevelopment authority were approved. But in that process, it pointed out, there was some thoughtful discussion that pointed out a need to review the grant guidelines, perhaps. So the last item I'll share is that the planning department gave a preview of their new growth trends webpage that they will be releasing soon. And it is very cool and will delineate on a map of the county any plan that has been submitted to the planning department by date. That data will go back to 2019. And the person looking at it can drill down to the site and see pertinent information, such as square footage on non-residential units that were proposed, and the type and number of residential units. So I think that will be a big help for the municipalities help field questions that are of things that are happening within their community. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's everything. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Commissioner Boschi.
Well, good morning, Cumberland County. I had a very active 2 weeks. I had a lot of liaison meetings and lots of different activities. Saturday night, I went out to Penn Township for their fireman's dinner. That was great. I got to sit with our public safety with Brian Hamilton and his wife. That was really a great event. You know, there are people that have been volunteering with Penn Township Fire Department for 50 years. It's just such a commitment to firefighting. It really is amazing. It's just such an amazing group of people. I had such a good time. March 18th, 2024, our Cumberland County Library System met. And as you know, we are closing in on Library Week. But Carolyn Blatchley, our executive director, went over some really interesting things, including she did a summary of the 2022 to 2026 strategic plan with highlights of sharing resources, increasing access, securing funding, supporting staff, and continuing innovation. The library system hosted the Friends and Trustee Institute at system headquarters on Saturday, March 23rd. And not only could you go to the office and meet, but you could Zoom in. That really was a feather in the library system's cap. And then as a reminder, Monday, April 8th is Right to Read Day. Tuesday, April 9th is National Library Workers Day. Wednesday, April 10th is National Library Outreach Day. And Thursday, April 11th is Take Action for Libraries Day. So that is, it's going to be an excellent week. Looking forward to it. So those are the highlights of the library system meeting. On 3/26, the Children and Youth Services Citizens Advisory Board met. Staffing, they have one vacant position at Children and Youth because of an internal promotion. That's awesome. So they're in the process of interviewing for that position, but boy, have they really they really have changed things in such a positive way at Children and Youth in terms of their staffing levels. Something I'm so proud of them for doing. Boy, the budget, Children and Youth received exactly what they asked for, and that is, I think, epic in the atmosphere that we have going on right now. So I'm very grateful for those dollars coming in. Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month is coming up in April, and on April 2nd, I'm right, April 2nd, 2:30, we're going to have an event out front. There will be the planting of flags representing substantiated cases of child abuse in Cumberland County in 2022, and then there will be the planting of a black flag representing the death of one child in Cumberland County due to child abuse in 2022. So we would like to have you come out and join us if you can. They highlighted, Nikki and Nicole highlighted the CCAP complex case work group recommendations during this meeting. And that was, I thought, not only very thoughtful of both of them, but they were very pleased with the work that CCAP had done on that. Oftentimes, you know, we hear work group and recommendations and they don't seem to mean anything, but they thought that was really nice, substantial work. And Children and Youth's continued partnership with Keystone Family Alliance has been a godsend. Keystone Family Alliance supports our foster families and also supports our children and youth workers. So that's really great. 326 Conservation District met. And you know what, Stacy, for the future, so now I've been the liaison to conservation and to planning. And it seems that if you really want to have a good handle on things, a commissioner should be the liaison to conservation, planning, and farmland. Like those three seem to go together so well. So just in case you want to make a note for future reference. So Bill Shane is a new associate director on the board. He is a retired farmer and he is very interested in seeding cover crops with drones. So he's such a good addition as an associate director. Ridge Road is moving forward. As we know, DCNR is going to abandon their easements on Ridge Road, and Mount Holly Springs has been working with conservation and landowners there to get all of those easements delivered to Mount Holly Springs so that gravel road can be repaired, gravel and dirt road can be repaired. So there is a meeting today about that. Carl's going to update me on that tomorrow. Conservation District Week is April 28th to May 4th. And the Conservation District will be bringing the request for a proclamation to the VOC. The Envirothon is on April 24th at Pine Grove Furnace. There will be 7 schools and 116 students. And if you've never been to a Envirothon, you are missing out because it is great. Students, boy, the students we have in Cumberland County are so smart. So if you can make it, you will not regret it. It is really great. Seedling sale pickup, April 18th from 9 to 5, April 19th from 8 to noon over at Allen Road. Planning was there. Steve mentioned this, what Kelly mentioned, the up and coming Growth Trends website. So I'm looking forward to getting a look at that, although we didn't get a preview, Kelly. So I'm a little disappointed that you got one early.
It's very cool.
I'm sure it sounded very cool. And then finally, I attended my first meeting of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. So 2 board meetings happen at once. And so since it was my first meeting, summarizing it is probably going to take me some time to get the hang of it because boy, does a lot go on there. It is, what they do is important and complicated. I think complicated is a good word for it. So they're working on their block grant. They'll send that to HUD in early May. Just some brief statistics. In the month of March, in terms of housing choice vouchers, the waiting list for housing choice vouchers is 2,932. So I know that we have an affordable housing issue in Cumberland County, and there's our waiting list. You know, finding affordable housing is very difficult and something that we have to continue to work on. So there's been a change in terms of public housing and rent determination. So flat rents allow the housing authority to cap a tenant's rent rather than have the tenant continue to pay income-based rent. So this is done to encourage tenants to transition from welfare to work. So flat rents will be increasing. That's a change in that program. They went over their public policy agenda, and boy, they have 6 action steps, with the first one being, and this is critical, meet with state and federal elected officials to discuss current operations and support received from governmental sources. And I'm so glad that they're doing that. They did a letter of agreement with Mary Kay Behavioral Health, who offers robust services for mental health to consumers of public housing in Cumberland County, and that is very important. The whole home repairs program, you know, that repair program has been in demand. And one of the issues is that there aren't enough contractors to do all of that work for people who need those whole home repairs. So that's something that they're focusing on also. And that's what I have for my update. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Eichelberg.
Okay, just briefly, I think a lot of the topics I have, the commissioners received full updates on just very recently, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of stuff. The one thing we have not discussed is the recycling authority, who had not met for the last 2 months. Doesn't mean there's anything happening there. I talked to Justin Miller right before I came over here, and he did give me a few things I'm just going to report out on here very quickly. We do, you've heard me mention before, but this issue we have regarding a fire with one of the grinders. It's a very expensive piece of equipment. So it is important. The grinders aren't particularly sexy. They are a big part of what we do. So we have a potential carrier issue. We don't have a lot of details at this point, but it is going to come before the commissioners for some decisions in the near future. Since it was brought up before, I just thought I would put that on the table so you know it's still on the radar, and we'll address that in due course. The other items are certainly more upbeat. We have a reminder: household hazardous waste. We're kicking off April 11th, just around the corner. Always a very successful event. The hours are 11 to 5, it's held out at the recycling center next to the old barn on Claremont Road. So they are up to 215 registrants now. I can't remember what the cap is on that. I know there's still some room. And that, of course, ends up being popular virtually every time we hold it, which is 7 times a year. So good news on that. The issue of the tire collection, the registration for that is open. That's a little ways off yet, but Judd told me that they already received several registrations. It's not until May 16th. That'll be the 16th and the 17th. But obviously, we caught the interest of some folks if they're already registering that far out. So that's obviously indicates a great deal of interest in that and a great deal of good done by our program in that. So the just as an update, April 1st is the deadline for the department to do all its reporting to the Commonwealth regarding totals for materials recycled. And of course, a lot of the funding is based on your volume. So that was a bit time consuming. Justin said he thinks he's done, but he's going to do a double check on that. So it's April 1st, of course, right around the corner, and he's like 99.9% there. A lot better than some of us with our tax deadline approaching, but he will definitely be getting that done, and it'll be interesting to see what those totals be, and he will be reporting those to us. The only other items he mentioned to me that he and Kirk saw the concept drawings for the recycling center that have been discussed. They're very preliminary, they're very flexible. We're still really early in that design process. So he just said it was interesting and liked what he saw, but there's a lot more work to be done on that. We'll be hearing much more on that in the future, of course. So that's there is a meeting for this coming month, whereas they haven't had any in a while. So and some of these items will require commissioner decision. I'm making a special point of being there, and we'll report back on those as needed. That's pretty much everything I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. That takes us to agenda item 24, which is report of executive sessions. And the executive session was held on March 21, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. regarding personnel. And I'd also report, it's not on the agenda, but we did have an executive session yesterday, March 27, 2024 at 2:15 p.m. also regarding personnel. Other business. Anybody have anything additional to come before the board today? Hearing none, seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.